look at experiencing cultural difference. In this course, we'll focus on learning how to work and interact with cultural difference. Dr. Geert Hofstede is best known for identifying the 6 dimensions of national culture along which nations vary in terms of values. He also identified dimensions of organizational culture that are based upon organizational practices. Hofstede began by studying patterns of thinking or mental programming that every person first begins to acquire in early childhood. One's national, cultural foundation builds over time. It's learned, not innate. It does not come from people's genes, but rather from their social environment. Culture is always a collective phenomenon because it's completely or at least partly shared with other people in a social community, by people who live or lived in the same social environment in which it was learned. Culture has been best studied by looking at societies, because societies historically and organizationally develop as forms of social organization. The notion of common culture applies to societies, not to nations. However, cultural researchers tend to study cultural differences at the level of nations because we either survive or are destroyed together. People seek to belong, thus they're drawn to this sense of nationalism, this shared language and ethnicity, even though within nations we see that people have numerous shared values and practices that are similar in minority groups. Culture, Hofstede says, is much like cells in a body. New body cells continually replace old ones throughout a person's life, but the person still exists as a self because their cells share the same genes. Furthermore, values, rather than practices, such as symbols, heroes, and rituals that give evidence to a culture, are the stable element of culture. Thus, research on culture starts with the measurement of a society's values. Dr. Hofstede's work on national cultural dimensions came out of an opportunity to study data of values of IBM employees who worked in 50 countries around the world. Because all employees worked in the same firm, the study had national control over the influence of a company's factors on their values. He found that countries shared common problems, but their solutions differed. Basic problem areas are represented dimensions of culture or aspects that could be measured and compared.